its championship nationally with a world championship here in Key West. There's Flowmaster on the outside, your leader in the Super Cat Triple. Nick Carter on the inside. Nick Carter Racing, your leader in Super V. Just listen to those power plants, Mercury powered. Steve Oropesa at the wheel. There's High Noon and Super V Light on the inside. Nick Carter Racing on the outside. On board Nick Carter Racing, Steve Oropesa and Lee Murray. Steve at the wheel. Straight run there right into Mallory Square to go by the spectators. A couple of days, of course, we'll be having the Nick Carter concert on Saturday night. Going to the left turn there, Nick Carter Racing. On board Nick Carter Racing in first place in Super V. We're going to take Nick Carter Racing to the finish line. Steve Oropesa, the driver. Lee Murray, the throttle man. On board Nick Carter Racing. 40-foot fountain. Mercury powered. Two 800 horsepower inboards. Steve and Lee both from Key West, Florida. Special thanks to Sloppy Joe's, their main sponsor in Key West. All right. Victory sign there on board Nick Carter Racing. In Super V class, we saw Nick Carter Racing going for the checkered flag in first place, followed by Instigator in second, and Media Master in third. Nick Carter Racing, number one in Super V, trying to repeat its national championship. The Tahoe Powerboats got the checkered flag, followed by Staying Alive and Realize Gain in third place. The checkered flag went to Tahoe Powerboats in the one design class. All right, so that is it for race number one. We've got the results, and we've got 6 more races left to go in these 2002 APBA World Championships. Great competition. highly competitive, but most of all, safe racing here in race number 1 in Key West. Iris, of course, your leader in Super Cat Light Outboard. We're going to go with Nick Carter, your leader right now in Super V. Your national champion in Super V, Nick Carter Racing. Of course, we're looking forward to the concert tonight, the Nick Carter concert this Saturday. Nick Carter Racing is a 40-foot fountain. Took a first place the other day. It's a tough boat to beat as we go on board. Mercury powered to 800 horsepower Mercury inboards. Steve Oropesa and Lee Murray, driver and throttle man. Nick Carter Racing, your national champion in Super V. Currently number 1 in Super V, Nick Carter Racing. Other competitors in Super V, we've got In Contempt, Instigator, and Media Master. In the background there, you can see the stage for the concert tonight, the Nick Carter concert. Major sponsor, Nick Carter Racing, Sloppy Joe's here in Key West. Let's go on board now with Nick Carter Racing. Just listen to those power plants. Around the turn. Back to a helicopter shot as we're in Mallory Square. Lots and lots of spectators. As we see the Super Cat lights going around the turn, there is High Risk, Critical Lift, and Snake Man Racing. All right, on board Nick Carter Racing now with Steve Oropesa and Lee Murray. You're a leader in Super V, and they know it. Special thanks to Sloppy Joe's, their main sponsor, Sloppy Joe's in Key West. Nick Carter slowing down, getting the checkered flag in Super V. That is it, the end of race number 5. And very shortly, we will tell you who the world champions are in the respective categories. There's Nick Carter Racing, of course. It won in Super V. It is your world champion in Super V as well as your national champion. 2 back-to-back checkered flags here in Key West for Nick Carter Racing. Highly competitive racing here in race number 5. And there is the checkered flag on board Nick Carter Racing. All right, we have the Super Cat light outboards and the twins and the triples, the Super Vs and the Super V light singles and twins. And as we look over the Key West area and heading out to the Truman Annex, the racing village for these World Championships, in just a few moments we'll give you a rundown on the winners for this race, number 5, and your World Champions, as we see lots and lots of spectators having watched race number 5. Of course, we have 2 races left on Sunday, races 6 and 7. Here is the stage for tonight's Nick Carter concert, and it will be a happy one for the Nick Carter Racing team. All right, and here are the winners now in Super V class. Nick Carter Racing in first place, getting the checkered flag, followed by Media Master Instigator in third. Nick Carter Racing in first place in Super V class. In Super V, here are the world champions. Nick Carter Racing in first place, and your world champion, Media Master in second, Instigator in third. Nick Carter Racing, your world champion and national champion for APBA this 2002 racing season. All right, that is it for race number 5, and Freeze Frame Video Productions certainly proud to be a part of it. Now, before we go, we're going to leave you with a couple of incidents that occurred during the week. And also, before we go, there are a few people that we would like to thank. First off, a special thanks to Eve for helping out during the 2002 racing season as well during these World Championships. Gary and Nancy Johnson for their fine camera work. Mr. Jim Fisher for his work with the onboard cameras. Russell Kilpatrick, our helicopter pilot, and of course the entire APBA staff for orchestrating a fine event. And a special thanks to the Obsession, Platinum, and Typhoon racing teams for helping us to transport our equipment to these World Championships here in Key West. And of course, Freeze Frame Video Productions providing all races on the DVD format as well as VHS. So this is Vince Lipari on the behalf of Jeff Girardi and the rest of the Freeze Frame Video production crew, wishing you a fond farewell from Key West, Florida. Hoping to see you during the 2003 APBA Offshore campaign. Bye, everyone.